Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. If you're watching this weekend and not actually watching it today, happy weekend. Um, so, today we're going to be talking about primary productivity, which basically is going to be talking about photosynthesis. I've got some funny memes here. Hopefully, you enjoy them. I thought they were hysterical. Anyways, happy Friday. Let's talk about photosynthesis and primary productivity. All right, so primary productivity um, is basically the rate at which solar energy gets converted into organic compounds through photosynthesis over a unit of time. So um, it's measured in grams carbon. All right, so you can kind of think about that with grams carbon. That's how much carbon that they're storing in grams. Or you can also measure it, you'll see it in kilocalories. So grams carbon is going to be more like a unit of mass almost. Well, it is units, or it is mass, it's grams. But so this is more like mass stored, whereas this right here is energy stored. So they're a little different in what exactly they're measuring. Again, mass, this is energy. But they're basically measuring kind of like the same thing. All right, so that's how we measure it. On the AP exam, you will see both measurements. Oops. Next slide. All right, so I quickly wanted to go over the, oh my gosh, the equations. Oh, it's such a Friday. The equations for photosynthesis and cellular respiration. So remember, photosynthesis, this happens obviously in plants, in the chloroplasts, those little tiny green organelles inside of plant cells. And it turns energy from the sun um, into organic substances. All right, so this is kind of important. It turns inorganic stuff into organic stuff, which is like, whoa, crazy. So remember, organic means that it has to have a carbon and a hydrogen bond. So in this equation, you see we have carbon dioxide, water, sunlight is a catalyst, turns it into this right here, which is glucose, type of sugar, and oxygen. Plants, remember, it's how we get all of our oxygen. Cellular respiration. So this is how we use or how we get energy from the food we eat. Happens in both plants and animals. Remember, this happens in the mitochondria. And it converts energy, the energy stored in the chemical bonds of food, into actual usable energy, which is called ATP. It's basically the reverse of photosynthesis. So we have oxygen and glucose. And in our mitochondria, it breaks it down into carbon dioxide, water, and ATP, which is energy. Anything that does not get turned into ATP is stored as fat, usually, for later use. All right, so if you get too much of glucose, you're going to be storing that, and that's how we gain weight. All right. So there are two different types of primary productivity. We have the gross and the net. So gross primary productivity is the total rate of photosynthesis in an area. Net primary productivity is the rate of energy storage by the photosynthesizers in a given area, after subtracting the energy lost to respiration. So like I said, plants go through cellular respiration as well. Even though they're making their own glucose, they still have to be able to turn that into ATP. So the net primary productivity is going to be the gross primary productivity, the total rate of photosynthesis, minus how much energy they use during cellular respiration. So a lot of their energy, there's going to be a decent amount lost here because they are being alive using ATP just like we all are. So I have this question here. Maybe you could answer it in the comments section below. What do you think are some factors that could influence the rate of photosynthesis and energy storage? So what do you think is going to change how much photosynthesis plants go through? Take a second, maybe write a quick brainstorm in the comments section. All right, so obviously one is going to be sunlight, the amount of sunlight that reaches the plant. That's really going to affect the rate of photosynthesis. More sunlight equals more photosynthesis. Less sunlight, less photosynthesis, because sunlight, as we know, is necessary for photosynthesis to happen. For energy storage, a lot of that's going to depend upon the plant and how much energy they end up using versus how much energy they create during photosynthesis. It could also be influenced by nutrient availability, a bunch of other stuff. But sunlight is going to be the big one. All right, that's the big one. So why do we care? Like, why are we learning about net primary productivity and gross primary productivity? Why does it matter? So thinking back to our food webs, what happens if there is low NPP, low net primary productivity in this food web? So a good way to think about this, if there's low NPP, net primary productivity, that means they're not storing a lot of energy. And if they don't have that much energy, that's going to affect every other level of the food web. If there's not enough energy, there's not going to be as many organisms eating the plants because there's just not as much energy available. So typically, if there is low NPP, there is also going to be a decrease in biodiversity. Remember, biodiversity means different types of organisms. So there's going to be less organisms. There's also going to be like a lower abundance of organisms. If there's high NPP, then there's going to be higher biodiversity and more organisms that can live in that ecosystem. So that's why we care, is if there's low NPP, there's not going to be as many things that can live in that ecosystem because there's just not as much energy being stored. Okay. Using dimensional analysis, I want you to calculate the net primary productivity. So I want you to turn 350 grams per kilometer squared per year into grams per meter squared per day. All right, so take a second, try it, pause your video. I'm not asking you to answer anything in the comments, just pause, see if you can do it. That way you can check your work with me. Okay, step one. We want to convert this number, so we're going to write it out with our first units on the top. So 350 grams over kilometer squared per year. All right, so the first thing we need to do, so we need to turn kilometer squared into meter squared. So remember, 1 kilometer squared does not equal 1,000 meters squared. It's going to equal 1,000 squared. So 1 times 10 to the 6th meters squared. All right, so we want to put our kilometer squared on top. So we have 1 kilometer squared. We're going to put 1 times 10 to the 6th meters squared. Cancel our units. Now we need to do years into day. So years is on the bottom, so we're going to put year on the top. And in each year, there is 365 days. So you're going to multiply across the top, multiply across the bottom, and I need a calculator. All right, got my calculator, did some calculations, and I got 9.6 times 10 to the negative 7th Remember, we're crossing off our units, grams per meter squared per day. So it's a very small number, so I went ahead and put it into scientific notation. All right, so if you have questions about that, again, office hours every day, 2 to 2:20. Please reach out. If you are struggling with dimensional analysis, we will have to do this eventually. All right, next slide. So happy Friday. So you only have 2 problems on the interactive notebook. We are going to work in class Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday next week on our ABC cohort schedule, combining all the topics we've covered so far. Some things you need to do this weekend. Obviously, watch all the videos I've posted. If you are behind, this weekend is your chance to catch up. Since we're combining all of them in class, it's very important that you have watched all the videos. I am going to put up an introduction on Flipgrid. I think this will be a good way for us to interact virtually and have like class discussions, but not be in class together. And then obviously also read the textbook. So at this point, we have gone over a decent amount of stuff so far. So we've talked about 1.1, 1.11. There's also, I forget what the unit is, but we've also talked about net primary productivity, so you can also read about that as well. So make sure you're looking at the reading guide, matching topics with the chapters in the textbook. I will see you all on Tuesday. Have an amazing weekend. I guess I'm just seeing A on Tuesday, so I'll see you all at some point next week, but have a good weekend. Please reach out if you have any questions, and I will see you all next week.